Hello everyone. Hello. I want to talk about how much I spent attending the Haus road trip number 3. And before I give out the math on how much I spend, I wanna say this episode has been made possible by the Haus group who made it possible to go for the trip. They had organized the trip from 7th August to 10. So I'll give the cost estimate for the entire trip, including fuel, food, and the other expenses. But beforehand, I want to say thank you for them making it possible. That is the Gears group. You can go to their socials, YouTube, 8X, and support them by just doing the necessary thing by subscribing, not forgetting that you can also subscribe on this channel. First and foremost, I want to say that on the first day, you need to make sure that your car has fuel. So I fueled it at the meeting point, full gas or petrol, which was costed 12,000. Then at the first stop of others, that is Mwingi, I added another fuel of 4K. Then from Mwingi to Malindi, in Malindi I topped up full, that is another 12K, because between Garissa and Malindi something happened there, so I had to finger the car, that is accelerate, and using a heavy foot shot. Then we came to Voi, where I fueled another, that is Voi to Taveta and back, and then within Voi I fueled about 7K. For the cost of fuel, it was distributed among me and my co-driver, that is the passenger. So this one is just a rough estimate. If you are going alone for the trip, how much will you be able, it will cost you to fuel your car back and to and from. So that is, I'll give you the math for the fuel. Then another expense is we went to Mambrui, where I spent 2,500 for the activities there. I was riding the four-wheelers and even using the arrow and bow. So for the activity there I spent 2,500. Then there is Hell's Gate, where you are charged 200 shillings per person, 300 I guess, not that I guess, around 300 per person. Then we went to Lake Chala, where together with the car the total expenditure became 500. So that is just for the activities. It was around, we spent around, and then we went to Vasco da Gama, where it was a charge of also 300 per head. Then for the accommodation within Malindi, we slept 2 nights, and per head it cost also 5,000. That is sleeping within Malindi. Then sleeping in Taveta, the cost was 2,000 without food. That is without food. With food 2,000. That is bed and breakfast. And then eating also, breakfast during the first day of the trip, I spent around 600 for the breakfast, and also the snacks I carried, that is 600. I spent around the following day, that is when we had the activities, I spent around 900 before we went to Mamburui. And then in the Kchala, where we slept, I also spent around 450 for the food. So as an individual, without the fuel, that is 2,500 plus 300 plus 500 plus 300 plus 5,000 plus 2,000 plus 600 plus 900 plus 450. So when we add up this, 7,000, 9,000, 11, okay, 11,000. For the food, we spend 12,050 shillings. Food and sleeping for 3 nights. That's 2 nights in Malindi and 1 night in Taveta. And eating, the expense was 12,050. Now, for the fuel, it was the one that was too expensive because I fuel at Shell within Nairobi, where we were at the meeting point, 12,000, and also 12,000 in Malindi, 4,000 in Mwingi, and 7,000 in Voi. So the total cost for the fuel was 35,000. That was the total cost of fuel, the entire trip. So for this 35,000, if you are an individual, when you add 35,000 to 12,000, the total will come to 47,050 shillings. That is if you are an individual. If you are budgeting for the trip alone, you will be spending 47,050. So give or take, let's say 50,000. You can budget for 50,000 if you are alone. But no, this trip I did not go alone. I went with a person. So this 35,000 we cost shared. It was my co-driver contributed around 19,000 for the fuel. 19,000. No. It was we distributed half. So I think my co-driver, the first time he contributed around 9, and then the second time also 9. That is around 18k. So it was cheaper that way, because if you are alone, it becomes too expensive. But when you go with a group or with the company and you cost share, it becomes cheaper. So all in all, when you are planning for a trip, do your rough estimates. If you are going alone, it is expensive. But if you have company, or the company that is willing to cost share, it becomes cheaper, and you get to enjoy the trip and the events wherever you are going to go. So you can weigh your options. There is an option if you don't want a company or you want to be alone, well and good. But there are those also who went with their family. So if you go with your family, you can plan yourself, because family is a good thing, but you need to plan well so that you don't get stuck on your way. So this is just the cost of the expenses: sleeping, eating, and also traveling on the cost of fuel. I've not catered for what happened while at Garissa, where our car broke down and I had to spend around 15 for repair of the shaft. Then I spent 1,500 for transporting the mechanic from Garissa to where the point the car had an issue. Then I gave the mechanic 1k. That is totaling to 4k. So I wasn't wrong when I added it and said roughly 50,000, give or take. So if I add that 4k to this, so because you need to have contingency, it's around 51,000. So you need to plan well so that the uncertainties, you are able to absorb them, and be able to finish your trip. So thanks for watching up to this far, the summary or the cost of the trip of the Gear House Road Trip 3, which was organized by the Gear House group. And thanks to them, still I want to say thanks to them. It was a great experience, and I hope that there are more to come. That is if the pockets allow. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe in this channel. And also you can visit the socials, that is the Gear House group, and do the same. Thank you and be blessed.